What's up there, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to a new episode of the Bitch Podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, as usual, comment on the video. Most importantly, subscribe if you're new to the channel and enable notifications to receive all the latest updates of the podcast episodes and other content on this channel here. Sunday didn't exactly provide us with the most newsworthy content to do the episode, really, but we should be plowing forward. And we're starting with a news roundup as usual, the most important news pieces from the last 24 hours in the world of football. But before everything, follow us on social media. I'm at PSP on Twitter, PitchSidePod on Instagram, and you can listen to this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform you want, or catch it later at www.websports.com. Then let's get on, of course, with some news quickly on in the start of this episode, and we start with some transfer talk as Mesut Ozil is open to leaving Arsenal this month if they pay him £68,000 until 2023. The Arsenal midfielder has been featuring for the club under Mikel Arteta since March and expected to depart the stadium, Emirates Stadium, this year as his 350k per week contract comes to an end in June. He's been recently linked, of course, with the move to the Turkish club Fenerbahce and DC United in the MLS. According to The Sun, he's willing to cut his big money contract at Arsenal early, but only if the club keeps paying him £68,000 per week until the summer of 2023. Meanwhile, reports in Turkey say that both the club and Ozil have entered talks over the remaining wages, which could pave the way for him to move there in this January transfer window. Should Ozil stay at the club until the contract expired, he would earn roughly £7.2 million. It's understood that the outcast will not leave a penny less than he's owed from Arsenal. The Gunners are aware of his stance, of course, but they would rather keep him, but to rather actually not take the hit financially and, looking to reach a compromise with the Turkish club. Arteta said that he hopes to find a solution and, that the standoff doesn't really last for long. He's saying that he will decide what's happening in the next few days. He doesn't know what's going to happen. He said that obviously Ozil is free to negotiate with other clubs and he will discuss internally the best solution for him in the near future, obviously with the player and his agent too, and try to find the best solution for everyone involved. Ozil, of course, joined Arsenal from Real Madrid in 2013 for a club record at the time, €42.5 million. The 32-year-old has led the Gunners for 4 FA Cup titles. It's unbelievable to think about it, really, but Mesut Ozil won 4 FA Cups with Arsenal. It's unbelievable. He played 254 times for the North London club, scored 45 goals and registered 77 assists, and that is with him most of the time. And how there's him not being featured in the last 2 years, practically. The Unai Emery era has been bad as well for him and Mikel Arteta, and the whole situation with his contracts and the fact that he doesn't want to play sometimes and all of that nonsense. It really makes for an interesting situation with Mesut Ozil. Moving to keeping the trend of actual bad news, to be fair. And Borussia Dortmund announced that Axel Witsel is suffering from a torn Achilles tendon and is going to be ruled out for the rest of the season. The 31-year-old went down after his left foot got stuck in the grass without any opposition contact in the first half on Saturday's game against RB Leipzig. Helped off the pitch in pain, and the diagnosis, of course, has revealed that he will require a surgery that will sideline him for several months. It's a big loss for Dortmund, although in the context of the game, as I mentioned in the review, really, it was a turning point pretty much. It was, perversely a positive for Dortmund as Emre Can brought more dynamism to the club and helped them get the win over RB Leipzig. Of course, we're moving on and we're still doing some transfer roundup. Of course, Dele Alli hasn't started in the Premier League since the opening day defeat to Everton for Tottenham, and he's going to be looking for a transfer out of the club. Of course, he's linked mostly with PSG as the given former boss, Mauricio Pochettino, who take charge of the club. They've been linked with a loan move for the England international after showing initial interest in last summer's window, and a 6-month temporary deal might be on the works here. Also, there is the talks about Marcos Alonso, the Spaniard for Chelsea, who started Chelsea's first 3 Premier League games this season before, of course, the arrival of Ben Chilwell, has not even featured in the Blues matchday squad ever since. Of course, he now recently was linked to move to Atletico Madrid, with whom Chelsea whom have exchanged left backs in the terms of Felipe Luis, of course, and they faced them in the Champions League. That is more importantly. Christian Eriksen also is one of the rumour mill, not exactly rumour mill, but one that you expect to leave Inter pretty soon. A host of clubs have been linked with him: Arsenal, Wolves, Real Madrid. A report from Guardian even claimed he could make a return on loan to Spurs. How the mighty have fallen, really, how the situation have become bad for a player with the ilk of Christian Eriksen. Jack Wilshere, currently unattached following his release from West Ham, is looking for a new club, though he's training with Bournemouth at the moment, suggested that a possible signing for struggling West Bromwich, with former Hammers star Devon Sinclair claiming he's looked $1 million in training with Jason Tindall's side. But we all know the deal, really. Steven Gerrard's Rangers as well as another possible destination. But it looks like pretty much a losing deal, I would say, for any club is going to be buying Jack Wilshere at the moment. His career is way beyond saving, and too much injuries for him. Other players also rumoured to leave their clubs. Fikayo Tomori is rumoured to leave Chelsea, is linked with Newcastle on a loan move as well. Sergio Romero, with Ole Solskjaer being clear that his contract is not going to be renewed, and his failed move to Everton is going to mean that he's going to be shipped into another deal pretty much. Brighton interested in him. Inter Miami in the United States probably interested in him as well, with David Beckham, of course, then the Man United links with that player. He could return to Argentina and his home club in Boca Juniors as well. Daniel Sturridge is, and finally, of course, Daniel Sturridge, he is linked also to a move with the MLS, of course. His contract with Trabzonspor has been terminated by mutual consent, and he was suspended last March from all football-related activity until the middle of June 2020 after breaching the betting rules in the country. The ex-Liverpool striker is still looking for a new club. He has been training and regularly posting fitness updates on his Instagram page, so probably hoping to join a new project before the transfer window ends. And despite, of course, despite Sunday being non-eventful, really, in terms of, not an action-packed Sunday, but still we had enough football to make up a content here on the episode. I know, starting from England and the FA Cup third round, second, day of matches. It was pretty much a straightforward day in the FA Cup. No real surprises whatsoever. I mean, aside from Leeds United, being beaten by Crawley Town, a League Two side, that's about the only, big story that the FA Cup could provide us on Sunday. Elsewhere, everything was pretty normal. Man City cruised through to defeating Birmingham City 3-0, of course. The goals coming in from Bernardo Silva twice and Riyad Mahrez scoring these, assisting the third goal, for Phil Foden. 4-0 it ends for Chelsea against Morecambe, a game that I think would serve as a good sort of motivation, so to speak, for some Chelsea players, particularly the likes of Kai Havertz and Timo Werner, who Kai Havertz, of course, with a goal and an assist on the day. Timo Werner, of course, scoring the second goal. Hudson-Odoi also scoring the third, and Havertz, of course, returning to score the fourth goal after assisting the second for his fellow German, Timo Werner. That game is going to be filling some players with, a bit of momentum. They needed it after the rough start to the season, the rough form that they've been in. in particular Timo Werner. I mean, people like they have their sort of the right to question, like saying, okay, but they scored against Morecambe, they're a side in League One. Like, what is really, important about that? I would say it is important. It doesn't matter the opponent you score against. If you're an attacker and you have a goal drought, it would only suit you that you score a goal or two, even if the game looks easy on paper. But you need to score to keep the momentum going and to give yourself the opportunity to take some pressure off of you, of course, and take some pressure off of Lampard. To be fair, it's not just the players, but Frank Lampard as a whole needs that kind of win, needs the momentum going, because he has been under a lot of pressure, and of course his name has been mentioned in the sack race quite a lot, and there's been and there have been managers who've been linked to replace him at the club, and this whole debate has been going now for a couple of weeks for Chelsea. Back to the results of the FA Cup still. Bristol City defeated Portsmouth 2-1. Cheltenham United defeated Mansfield Town 2-1. Barnsley defeated Tranmere Rovers 2-0. As we mentioned, Crawley Town shocked Leeds United 3-0. It was a modified side pretty much for Leeds. That's about the only big story from the FA Cup, really. A big side. Big change in the Leeds United side. Saw them change around 7 players, but still it was enough a strong team to expect them to win, but they didn't. Crawley Town thrashed them 3-0. Tottenham in a run-of-the-mill victory over Marine, but the game, of course, was really helpful to boost also the momentum of some players there. Dele Alli had a good game. Carlos Vinicius scoring a hat-trick in that game. As well, in between Devine and Lucas Moura scoring 2 goals there as well. And Newport County drawing against Brighton 1-1 on normal time and extra time before losing to them on penalties 3-4. FA Cup games still to continue today with Stockport County facing West Ham. It doesn't look really like there will be, much of a surprise. All the big sides you'd expect to go through went through in the end. There was no, some of them went through the hard way, but mostly, of course, it was, I think, cruising through for the big boys in the Premier League. 4th round fixtures are yet to be, of course, yet to be played, and the draw is going to be made due before the Stockport County versus West Ham game today. Again, as I was saying, Sunday wasn't exactly the strongest of the, action-packed Sundays, really, like yesterday, but I'm going to be, doing something different here. I'm going to be, mixing the Bundesliga and the Liga in sort of one pack, since there wasn't really big games to talk about there, either in Spain or in Germany. Augsburg lost to Stuttgart 1-4 in the Bundesliga, with Arminia Bielefeld managing to defeat Hertha Berlin 1-0. The table of the Bundesliga after the finish of round 15 reads like this: Bayern Munich 33 points, Leipzig 31 points at second, 29 for Leverkusen at third, 28 for Borussia Dortmund fourth, 35 for Union Berlin at fifth, Wolfsburg behind them 25 points too, 24 points for Borussia Mönchengladbach, Freiburg 23, as well as Eintracht Frankfurt, Stuttgart with 21, Augsburg with 19, 16 for Hertha Berlin, Bremen with 15 points, Hoffenheim with 15 as well, 13 points for Arminia Bielefeld, 11 for Köln, Schalke 7 points finally after the first win in 31 games, and 18 points in 18 spots, Mainz, bottom of the table, 6 points in the Bundesliga. In La Liga, 3 matches also took place yesterday, pretty inconsequential. If you look at the grand landscape of things. Levante defeated Eibar 2-1, Cadiz defeated Alaves 3-1, and Valencia managed a hard win away from home to Real Valladolid 1-0. The fixtures still have 2 matches today: Elche hosting Getafe and Huesca hosting Real Betis. The table of La Liga reads like this: Atletico Madrid with 3 games in hand, and they're going to be playing, of course, the first of those games on Wednesday when they host Sevilla in a big Laliga encounter. Really, 38 points for Atletico at the top, 37 for Real Madrid, 34 Barcelona, 32 for Real, 30 for both Sociedad and Sevilla, 24 for Granada, Celta Vigo and Cadiz with 23 points apiece. Levante 21 points as well, Athletic Club 20 for Betis on 12, Valencia 13 place with 19 points as well as Eibar with 19 points, Alaves with 18 points as well as Valladolid, 17 for Getafe, 16 for Elche, Osasuna 15 and Huesca with 12 points at the very bottom. And of course we're working with the principle of save the best till last, and we're saving the Serie A, which was the most eventful league on Sunday this weekend, as 7 matches, of course, took place yesterday. We remind of the Saturday games, of course, before we go there. Benevento, as mentioned, lost to Atalanta 1-4. Genoa defeated Bologna 2-0, and Milan defeated Torino 2-0 to bounce back from the loss against Juventus and keep themselves on the top of the Serie A. And what they failed to do on midweek, failing to get any grip and difference more than 1 point ahead of Inter, they managed to do this week, in fact, and they capitalized on Roma drawing 2-2 against Inter. It was a brilliant game of football, really, from both sides. Roma started the stronger side, supposedly. I mean, the game was pretty tight, really, but it was swinging back and forth. Roma started strong, then Inter came at them in the first half, in midway through the first half, really. But the half ended with only the 1 goal separating the two sides, with Roma scoring via Lorenzo Pellegrini from a Henrik Mkhitaryan assist. Low-key, Henrik Mkhitaryan is having one of his best seasons at the moment. Then, of course, Darmian went down injured. Ashley Young had to come on for him, and it was really pretty much effective. Inter became more offensive as the half went closer. Milan Skriniar managed to equalise for them in the first quarter of an hour of the second half, and then it was a brilliant goal by Achraf Hakimi. The run, the cut inside, left-footed shot, like he took it on his weaker foot, supposedly. Because when you see a shot like that, you don't really think that that's his weaker foot and that he plays with his right foot. It is a brilliantly placed shot into the crossbar, into the post and into the net. No chance whatsoever for Pau Lopez, who saved quite some big chances before the second goal, actually. And before even the equaliser, like, Inter came off the rails pretty strong in the second half, missing a couple of chances for Lautaro Martinez as well as Romelu Lukaku, a couple of chances for Ashley Young as well, before, of course, Milan Skriniar managed to equalise, as you mentioned, on 56 minutes, and Hakimi, of course, scoring a beautiful goal. If you didn't see it, like, go check it out, the highlights, of course, all over YouTube. It is a brilliant goal and worth watching, and it's a goal of the week contender, goal of the season contender, I would say, in Serie A. Inter continued to attack after the goal for a while, but then, of course, Roma realised that they don't need to lose points here, and they went forward as well, making a couple of changes. Spinazzola coming off for Perez, Veretout coming off for Brian Cristante, and eventually these changes gave Roma what they wanted as an equaliser from Mancini's header in the 86 minutes. A ridiculous defending, I would say, because when I watched the goal back, the box was crowded with the Inter players. There were 7 to 9 players really in that box, including Romelu Lukaku. How none of them reacted to Mancini's header is beyond me, particularly someone like Milan Skriniar or De Vrij. The changes that Conte made again really subvert the logic. I wanted to check if Eriksen is there on the bench, and he is. And you know what Conte did? He didn't play him. He substituted Lautaro Martinez for Perisic. He looked injured. Lautaro Martinez leaving because he picked up a knock early on in the second half. He took off Hakimi to put in Kolarov, he took on Vidal to put Gagliardini. He still doesn't like Eriksen, he still doesn't care about him, he still doesn't want to play him, and it looks a pretty done deal that Eriksen is going to be leaving, if not in January. He might, bite on the meat pretty much and stay at the club until the summer and wait for a bit better deal. Better deal to come, as we mentioned earlier in the news, has been linked with Real Madrid, with Arsenal, and even with a loan move back to Spurs. Anyway, it was an entertaining draw, but I think in terms of the benefits of that draw, none benefited whatsoever. Inter, with the second game in a row they don't win, they don't manage to keep the difference and the point gap above them tight. And this is, believe it or not, this is the 5th draw in a row between the two sides. It's unbelievable. The last 5 games all ended in draws. Now this is the 5th draw in a row. It's incredible. It seems to be destined that they're going to be drawing against each other. Inter, of course, with the loss against Sampdoria before it, and now the draw, they are 3 points adrift of their rivals in AC Milan. Roma keep having a great season pretty much, but they're still behind both those clubs on the table with 34 points. They could have really gotten a better deal, deal of the life. They could have gone joint second, or even they could go on second, above Inter by the goal, by the goal difference had they won the game, but they didn't. So it's all well and good for them. Conte, I think, should be really, considering some changes to his side. I mean, we've been saying this for quite a while here, that Conte is pretty conservative to his detriment, pretty much. Yes, he's a defensive coach. He might be one of the most enthusiastic and ambitious coaches in the world, but being too defensive is something that you don't want to affect your season, and it's doing just that for Inter Milan at the moment. Elsewhere, Verona defeated Crotone 2-1. Napoli defeated Udinese 2-1 away from home. It was a hard win for Gennaro Gattuso's boys, who I think needed that after a solid loss last time out. They needed the kind of bounce back, energy against Udinese, and they did just that. Lazio 2-0 against Parma away from home. An important win, racking up wins and probably slowly creeping up to the top 5, top 6 and top 4 kind of performance. Fiorentina, the victory against Cagliari 1-0, and of course the defending champions, Juventus, fresh off their 3-1 win against AC Milan. They defeat Sassuolo 3-1, and this result might seem like a straightforward conclusion. You might read the result and say, but Juventus, dominated the game and they were the better side and completely trampled over Sassuolo. That was not the case at all. This was anything but, and this was a game where circumstances almost didn't serve Juventus well in the game. They had Dybala going down injured, and they had Weston McKennie going down injured, and Chiesa picking up a knock and being replaced in the second half. So all in all, it wasn't exactly the most comfortable of victories for Juventus, and particularly Sassuolo made it even harder. And despite the fact that they were one man down, Sassuolo, they had Pedro Obiang being sent off since the last kick of the first half after his tackle on Cristiano Ronaldo, being sent off late on in the first half. And despite that, Roberto Di Serbi didn't cave in, didn't go defensive, didn't go conservative, didn't try to close down and play 10 in the back and what have you. He was one man down. He was playing against Juventus away from home, but he was offensive. Sassuolo, we predicted that. They have been a pain in the you-know-what for Juventus in the last couple of fixtures in Serie A, and they gave them even more heartaches in this game. Of course, in the second half, they played really offensive. They made offensive changes if you look at it in the grand scheme of things for Sassuolo, they of course, with the mentality of being again against Juventus. The second half in particular was very, very entertaining. Danilo opened the scoring in 15 minutes before Di Frel 8 minutes later equalises, and the game was back and forth afterwards, and Sassuolo had incredible chances to score. Juventus left it late to pick up the points. Ramsey with the second goal from an assist of Frabolta and Cristiano Ronaldo, with the third goal in the 92nd minutes for a Danilo assist. Juventus, big win. I think this one is more important than the Milan one, because again, the Milan one, I would say there's a big asterisk that Milan was missing 6 or 7 players. I mean, Juve are no shortage of missing players as well, but it's different when the side in front of you is full and ready. Circumstances, again, almost served Sassuolo a point at least, but in the end Juventus picked up the 3 points, showed up a lot of character again, and Pirlo knew the winning combination and adapted to the strong circumstances, adapted to the hard circumstances of the game. To his absolute credit, it seems like he's finding the mojo, it seems like he's finding the proper formation to use with this Juventus side, which is only going to bode well for him in the future, heading into the business end of the season. The table, of course, reads after this. Of course, there's still one game in the fixture. Spezia is going to be hosting Sampdoria on Monday, but that game is not likely going to be changing a lot in the table. Pretty much Sampdoria are going to be either Sampdoria or Spezia are going to be moving only one place up if they win. If one of them wins today, if it's draw, both are going to be staying in their places pretty much. So the table reads Milan 40 points at the top, 37 points for Inter. The gap is forming bit by bit, 6 points above Roma, 34 at third, Juve 33 points at fourth, and a game in hand. Atalanta a game in hand as well, with 31 points. This could be interesting, really. 31 points for Napoli with the game in hand as well. Sassuolo 29 points, Lazio 28 points, Verona 27, Benevento 21, 20 points for Sampdoria at 11th. As you mentioned, they play Spezia on Monday. Fiorentina 18 points, 17 for Bologna, 16 Udinese, 14 Spezia. As I mentioned, they play Sampdoria today, so the game in hand. 14 Cagliari at 16, 17 for Genoa, 12 for Torino, 12 for Parma at 19th, and Crotone 9 points at the very bottom. That's it for the episode. In the end, I wanted to say that I apologize for not making an episode yesterday. Technical issues are a thing, unfortunately, they exist in life. My PC has crashed repeatedly. I actually made the episode and recorded it, believe it or not. But I couldn't upload it because my PC decided to crash at the worst time possible, and I couldn't do it. Unfortunately, I couldn't make an episode yesterday to really give a focus to the Bundesliga even more. But hopefully that doesn't happen again in the near future, at least until I get a new PC. That might happen a couple of other times. But that's it. I just want to explain the reasoning behind me not making an episode yesterday. In the end, like, share, comment on this video. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and enable notifications to receive the updates of this podcast and the other content on this channel. SatPSP, I'm there on Twitter, Pitch Site Pod on Instagram, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform to listen to this podcast, as well as www.webreadsports.com. You can catch it later there. I'm your boy, the HID of the PSP, and until the next time, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.